Hello, my name is Joshua Woodhouse and this is my development vlog. This is the code. Sorry if it's a bit hard to see in the recording. So essentially for what it does, here I declare the variables. I include my header file. I also include stuff that's in the libraries. Main, get player class selection, put that in the function in the header file to set the stats. Some choices here about what to do, what you could do. Making an array for the function inside my header file that does the battle system. I'm just setting the values of the array and just putting them in as an argument. Checking if you've won or lost. More choice checking. Gets you rewards if you win the fight. So if you decide to kill the gnome, you can get a rune of +5 attack. That just adds a modifier, which is part of my stats function. So every time stats is called, it not only sets the stats, but it adds modifier values, which are declared at the top, and it just adds the mod to the stats. So also refreshes HP. This just displays the stats. You walk on. Stats of the enemy, rewards, same stuff. Here's the random encounter logic. So it just gets a number between 1 and 3. If it's 1, you get the random encounter. If it's 2, nothing happens, and it's 3, you get the little FOMO Easter egg. You've got the shop. You can pick what you want, and you get different stats depending on what you pick. Or you can decide not to pick anything. Afterwards, you can fight the shopkeeper. And if you win, if you bought stuff, you get an extra copy of every item. If you didn't buy stuff, you just get one of every item. And that's just adding to the modifiers. And then I refresh the stats, so the modifiers take effect. The part where you fight the shopkeeper. Then it checks for the FOMO Easter egg. FOMO Easter egg, you instantly win. Otherwise, you fight the troll. If you beat the troll, then you win, and you get all the hot babes. And your stats are displayed, and then the game ends. If you lose, the game ends. So that's that for that. Now we've got the header file. First set HP plus the HP mod. HP is always the same between all the classes, so it's just 20. I use defense instead to figure out their tankiness, and you'll see that later in the damage calc. Switch player class, just figures out what class you are. This never changes. The player class int is just set at the start by the player choice. So every time you run the stats function, it's going to check that, check which class you are, and add your mods. Just display stats, pretty simple. Right, the battle function gets the variable int, figures out who's going to go first here. If the player's going first, and then it does it so the player goes first, and if the enemy's HP reaches 0, did this because obviously the player's going first. Oh no, if the enemy's HP is above 0, it's going to check that every time the player attacks. This is so if the player kills the enemy on their first turn, it doesn't give the enemy a turn even though they're dead. And this is just the same but backwards basically. And then if HP is 0, the player loses, and it sets win to false. Else, win becomes true because the enemy's dead. And because the if statements are put earlier, there'll never be any ties. Now I'm just going to run the program. This is the header for the string thing. I never edited this. It just came up once because I was having issues earlier. When I was trying to do the choice at the start to put it in the function, I was trying to just convert the string that you put into an int, and that was causing problems. Say you put in like sandwich instead of your class at the start selection, then it would convert to an int, and then it would crash and cause a bunch of errors, and this opened up. I never messed with it though, I didn't need to mess with it. This is all just stuff in the libraries. Yeah. So you can see your name. My name's Josh. I'm going to play as a knight. These are the stats of the knight. Got 5 attack, 4 defense, 1 speed, 20 HP. Wickham the Wasteland, spot T. I'm going to not fight the gnome. So away, my stats, you walk on, I find nothing. Also find the FOMO that looks cool. I'm going to find a shop. I'm not going to buy anything from the shop. I'm going to fight the shopkeeper though. And I lost to the shopkeeper, so I'm going to try again. Let's put J, 1, 1. No, let's fight the shopkeeper. So I beat the shopkeeper, as you can see here, and I got the stat buffs. Then I left the shop, fought the troll. They fought the troll and won, so I won. Oh, I had the FOMO Easter egg, so I won because of that, and I blew the troll to bits. If you're wondering why J is at the end, that's just because when it displays the stats, it also displays your name. So, yeah. Okay. Issues I faced, not gonna lie, there were quite a few. Mainly because I'm too stupid to understand the difference between plus equals and equals plus. Don't know my bid maths. Figured that out though for the end. Got everything working. Obviously, the issue I explained earlier with the choice at the start and converting that to an integer to be used in my function. I wanted to use the switch in the function just because it just felt more efficient. I don't like using a bunch of if statements if I can. What other issues did I have? When I did the header file, when I moved everything to the header file, originally it couldn't see the stuff in it, like all these variables, because this was at the start right here. This include func.h. That was at the start. It needs to be at the end, so the functions get initialized and then it can read them. Not functions, variables get initialized and it can read them. To use in all the stuff, well, to use the functions in the header file. Yeah, whatever issues do I have? Some more, it's hard to think off the top of your head. I should have wrote a script. Mainly just stuff with me not knowing the difference between equals and plus, to be honest. I was quite bad for that. I had a problem where the stuff wasn't updating in the script. Not in the script, in the function. So you weren't getting your mods if you buy like items and stuff. And that was just because you see this switch case here. I didn't have these spaces. So it was formatted wrong. So it just wasn't working. It would only work with the first option, and it confused me for quite a while. That took like half an hour for me to figure out because I'm an idiot. So I just looked at some examples of switch statements and like what it gives you, and I realized at the start I had the space, and that's why that one was working. So yeah. So yeah. Anything else? Alright, I think, to be honest. I had a lot of issues when making the battle script, but it was like such minute stuff that's hard to like actually explain. Maybe if I open it, I might jog my memory. This battle. One problem I had was, as I said before, these used to be equals then minuses rather than minuses then equals. I also had a problem where the original defense I set for everybody was too high, so they just kept healing rather than taking damage. Which is kind of a mechanic of the game, because I kind of liked it, so I left it like that, but I just reduced everybody's defense so it happens less. It's like, if you're lucky, you might heal instead of taking damage. Felt like that was kind of fun. Had problems with the player first. Obviously, I had the issue earlier which this if statement fixed, where say the player was going first and they killed the enemy, then it'd be the enemy's turn and the enemy could kill you and it'd be a draw and it'd just be weird. It did work out fine, weirdly enough. I don't know how that made any sense logically, but it was working fine somehow. But I didn't really like it was doing that, so I just fixed that anyway. So yeah, it's my vlog, I guess. See you on the flip side.